Hello and welcome back. My name is India and I happen to read a lot. And here is the long-awaited video discussing the shortlist for the New Adult Prize 2025 that the bookseller is bringing out. For those of you who don't know, I will link some of the other videos that I've done for this, but I am part of the Readers Guild, hand-selected by the team behind the New Adult Prize, to help promote new adult fiction and to promote the prize itself. I recently did a video about kind of my top 5 new adult recommendations, explaining a little bit what new adult is about, and I did say once the shortlist came out I would do a video announcing it and talking through the shortlist. I've actually already read one of these books already, which is amazing. So yep, we're just going to go through one by one, talk about the book, any anecdotes that I have about the book, anything specifically that the judges said about the book, and if I knew anything else about this author or anything like that. So yeah, should be good. Please sit back and relax. Let me know as well if there's anything in here, if you love an author, if you've already read the book and you've loved it. Please recommend any other new adult books that you think are amazing. Obviously, this is a very varied shortlist. If you can already see, we've got romance, we've got literary fiction, we've got fantasy. The one thing that I love so much, I actually spoke with Katie Fraser, one of the head judges, one of the women behind the prize, is the fact that because new adult is more of an age group rather than a specific genre, it really opens up the possibilities of what is an amazing new adult book, which is great. So I was really happy to hear that we were going to get a very varied shortlist of varying different genres. It was music to my bloody ears. But let's go. So I just want to start off and say that these books have been gifted to me by the New Adult Prize. I'm not being paid to make this video, but it's something that I wanted to do as part of my role in the Readers Guild. It was something that I personally decided to do. So the first book on the shortlist is The Pairing by Casey McQuiston. Now, if any of you have watched my Cyprus holiday vlog, which I recently put out, you know that I do discuss a little bit of this book and my thoughts in that. Only a little bit, nothing major, but it was one of the books that I decided to read on holiday because I thought it was the perfect holiday read. This is a really, really funny and amazingly oh my god, the food and drink writing and the travel writing in this book is incredible. It is a second chance romance that follows Theo and Kit, two exes who both happen to reimburse their non-refundable food and wine tour ticket at the exact same time and reunite after about 4 years apart. And they decide that they're going to do this fun hookup competition, kind of to prove to each other that they're over each other, and also just have some fun on this food and wine tour. It is very funny, it's very beautiful, it perfectly encapsulates that idea of feeling like you are reuniting with people from your past and trying to pretend that you have your shit together when you don't. It has amazing food and wine writing. It is just, yeah, it's trying to find yourself after a big breakup. It's also trying to find yourself after a relationship that kind of takes a massive chunk out of you. It is very, very good. The judges said this was a joyful second chance romance book and that they enjoyed the witty narrative that celebrates self-discovery, food, and love. So that's the first one. That is the only one I've read. So there is an element of more discussion around this book just because I've happened to have read it already. Next up is Ghost Chili by Nikkitha Bakshani. This is a contemporary literary fiction following our main character, Muskan, who's kind of living a great life. They've got a great job in the big city that follows their creative passions. They have supportive friends. Their dating life seems to be going quite well. And she kind of seems to be ignoring all the stuff that kind of in the background seems to be going wrong because she's just focusing on the good things. And then one day something just hits her like a ton of bricks and she starts kind of questioning. Things start building up, work gets a bit tougher, and she's kind of been working really hard to maintain this kind of easygoing persona. I'm an easygoing person, don't worry about me, kind of people-pleasing tendencies, I must say. And obstacles start mounting. She starts questioning everything, and it does lead her to start having some more internal thoughts about herself and her family, and the biggest question on her mind is why did her family move so abruptly to America? So yeah, it's noted as warm, funny, and sharply observed. It is a story about trying to find honest relationships in an isolating world and the weight we unwittingly carry. The judges said this was a turbulent, dark comedy that vividly invokes the life of being in your 20s. So next up, we have Human Animal by Seth Insua. This is again another literary fiction. This follows a father and son duo who are struggling on a failing farm, of which the father does not want to admit. He also doesn't want to admit that his elderly mother's health is failing, and he doesn't want to really delve into the kind of drifting gap that is forming between him and his son. Tom is freshly back from university, back in his childhood bedroom, and is guarding very heavily his gender identity from his father. One day, animal activists break into their farm, and Tom decides to side with the animal activists, causing an even bigger rift between the father and son. All of this ends up unraveling the family, and all these really deep, dark, scary, don't want to talk about secrets start to bubble back up. And this is something that will either completely tear the family apart or unite them like they've never been united before. The main thing that the judges said about this book was how impressive Insua's prose was. They named it a poignant read, and they found that Insua's writing kind of challenged the line between family tradition and external pressure. So yeah, human animal. Then we have Under Your Spell by Laura Wood. Now I must say, I recognise this book instantly. There was a couple in here where I saw the shortlist and I was like, wow, amazing, books that I didn't know too much about. I'm excited. This is one that, as a bookseller, I've seen dotted around my bookstore quite a bit. It was just one of those books. Sometimes you just have books that follow you around the store a little bit. It would either be on a trolley, or then I'd see it on the shelf, or I'd see it on a display, and it would just follow me around the store. But this is Under Your Spell by Laura Wood. So this is a really fun contemporary romance, little bit of a magical undertone, which follows Clemmy, whose life has completely fallen apart. She's lost her job, getting kicked out of a flat, ex broken up with her. So one day her and her sister get drunk and they cast one of these like childhood spells they would do when they were younger, called the breakup spell. And after she casts that spell, life goes crazy. She ruins a funeral, she has her very first one-night stand, and she ends up with a job that she doesn't want. But it does mean that she gets to spend 6 weeks with a very off-the-limits, guards-up rock star, who is like the most famous man on the planet, and she's a disaster. He's got his guard up. They're clearly just going to get through these 6 weeks. Nothing interesting's going to happen, and then the 6 weeks are going to end. The judges called this a funny, slow burn romance that focuses on body image, sisterhood, and capturing the humour of the everyday. Then we have Disappoint Me by Nicola Dinan, whose book Bellies I saw everywhere when it came out. I'd not personally read Bellies, but all of my friends and my colleagues that read Bellies absolutely bloody loved it. So I'm very excited for the second book that she's brought out. This follows a trans woman called Max, who, following an accident on New Year's Eve, wants to make changes to her life, and she starts dating Vincent, this big corporate lawyer. Yeah, there is something about Vincent that something seems off. It seems kind of all good to be true, and Vincent's secrets are gonna bubble back up from a very specific gap year in Thailand. The panel of judges for this book hailed Dinan's acute observations about modern dating, the struggle between personal identity and cultural traditions, and the battle between how you are perceived versus how you feel. Something that I think I personally, especially that last little bit, can connect to. Then we have Homesick by Silvia Saunders, who was the winner of the Comedy Women in Print Prize, which I just read here. This follows Mara, who's been kind of muddling through with her life, who is kind of with a roommate that she doesn't like. She just wants to stay at home and watch The Real Housewives in her PJs. And one day she comes into some money and life seems to be looking up. Her and her boyfriend are going to find a place. She's going to finally have a space of her own with the person that she loves. Life's going to get better. And then her boyfriend's like, that sounds great. You're doing that without me because I'm leaving London and I'm leaving you. And then that just kind of spirals Mara's life. She starts falling out with some friends. She's going through a breakup, not everything as it seems. And she's kind of got to learn to live again for herself and start a fresh, new, clean slate. Find out who she is again, which I think is, I always say, is probably one of the most universal themes of this kind of new adult age. I always say, for me, 14-year-old me knew who I was. And it's now taken 24, 25-year-old me to go, she was onto something. And I'm basically like a 2.0 version of who I was at 14. And I had to kind of refine myself again in my mid-20s. And I kind of feel like that's a little bit what this book is about. This also is Silvia Saunders' debut, which is very exciting. This was declared by the panel as compulsively readable and perfectly encapsulates living your life in your mid-20s, which is everything that this prize is about. Next up, we have Maiga Doocy's Sorcery and Small Magics. As a fantasy reader, I always get a little bit excited when I saw the little fantasy ones. I was like, ah! So this follows two rival sorcerers. You have Leovander Loveage, who is a master of small magics, being able to turn your hair pink and create butterflies, everything being a little bit kind of on the smaller side. And after a little bit of an accident with some forbidden magic, Leovander is then stuck having to literally obey, does not have a choice, his longtime rival, Sebastian Grimm. Sebastian Grimm is the complete opposite of Leovander, not only in magic but also in personality. He is respected, he's talented, he is just everything that Leavander isn't, and they are now stuck together and they are forced to work together. They need a counterspell fast, so they head off after a rumour of a very powerful sorcerer, and they head off into the unquiet wood that requires them to fight monsters, work together, learn to basically kind of like each other if they're going to have to get through this, and also kind of really delve into Leo specifically's magic. But yes, this seems like a really fun enemies to lovers romantasy. The panel for this one called this a delightful magical adventure. So yeah, sounds fun. Then we have Good Girl by Aria Aber. This follows 90-year-old Nyla, born in Germany to Afghan parents, kind of rebelling against her parents in order to try and find freedom and who she is. And one day she meets Marlowe, an American writer that really teaches her about artistic freedom and freedom for life in general. And she's slowly but surely pulled into the orbit that is Marlowe, but racial tensions start to be building in Germany, which affects her community and her family. And basically after a year of running away, Nyla really has to sit with herself and figure out who is she and who does she want to be. And yeah, described as electric by the judging panel. I think this is going to be a very poignant read. Then we have Heir by Sabaa Tahir. I have read this author's books. I've read two of the Ember in the Ashes series, 2 books in the Ember in the Ashes series. Now, all I know about this before kind of delving into my research is that this is set in the world of An Ember in the Ashes, and I believe it's set after the events of the series, just set in the same world. The panel praised Tahir's writing as beautiful and having powerful social commentary and very strong characterization. So we have 3 characters in this book that we follow, this kind of interweaving narrative. You've got a prisoner called Eyes, a tracker called Saoirse, and Quill, the Prince of the Kingdom. A new enemy arises to threaten the kingdom itself, and it will involve these 3 characters. It makes them think about power, love, the consequences of betrayal. It is, yeah, it's going to be an epic book because Sabaa Tahir does not do things by halves. And then finally, it's Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. I don't really think this book needs much of an introduction. I think everybody knows about Rebecca Yarros and this book. The judges called this one a high-octane continuation to the series. You can't really say too much about a book that's the 3rd installment to a series without spoiling anything else, so I am just going to leave it as that. Like I said, I don't think Onyx Storm needs much of an introduction because it's the series that it is. And that's it. That is the shortlist. How incredibly exciting. A very big variation of books. I am very excited to see what gets announced in October. I'm hoping to be able to attend the award ceremony at the Cheltenham Literary Festival this October. So yeah, bubbling with excitement to know who's going to win. This is a very, very interesting shortlist because they are all so different. You can't go from fun little slow burn contemporary romances to then conversations about racial hostilities in Germany, and which makes a 19-year-old young woman try to figure out who she is, to then a fun enemies to lovers fantasy adventure. It's all very varied, which makes it so incredibly exciting, which makes it very hard to kind of guess what's going to win. So yes, I'm very excited. If you want to know more about the New Adult Prize, I will link the website in the description. It is very exciting. So yeah, please like and subscribe and all of that fun stuff. And thank you so much for watching.